Most people think you can't live big in a small space, that living in a studio limits your lifestyle. But the truth is that living small doesn't shrink your life. It forces you to design it with intention. After 5 years in one room, these are 9 lessons that completely changed how I view space, stuff, and what really matters. So whether you're living small now or are just curious what it's really like, get ready to redefine what your space means to you. Before we start, I just want to say welcome to the Be So Good channel, where we're all about elevating ourselves to be our best, both inside and out. It's so good to have you here. Let's dive in. Lesson number 1 is that everything needs to have a purpose. I very quickly learned that space is expensive and not just financially. I personally, for some context, moved into our studio with my partner who was already living in the studio before I moved in. And very quickly it became a 1-person studio to a 2-person studio. And we learned how important it is to have furniture and just different things that are multi-purpose. For example, we have towers that are full-length body mirrors but also rotate, and I can store my workout clothes, my leggings, things like that. Same thing with the desks. Make sure that they have storage. Just anywhere that you can get storage is going to be a really big deal. So you really want to focus on buying pieces of furniture or even decorative pieces that have a multi-purpose function, because space is limited. And once everything has a function, you start to notice the things that serve no function at all. And that is where lesson 2 hit really hard. And that is that cleaning and decluttering is not optional. It is absolute survival. Mess multiplies in studio and small spaces. There is a big misconception. I know that I had this misconception, and you most likely have this misconception, that just because your space is small or your studio is smaller than a traditional 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or whatever the case, or a house, that it doesn't get messy, that it doesn't get cluttered really easily. But it is completely the opposite. Because you see everything, because everything is in one room, it's like mess, clutter just absolutely multiplies, and you actually notice it way more because you don't have doors to hide it. You can't, like go to a separate room that's cleaner. It is all in the same environment. So you really have to make an effort to declutter and to clean on a constant basis. We do deep cleans, every week or 2, and then we also do closet declutters. I personally have to do it more than he does because I do have more things. I am a work in progress, but definitely I revisit my closet and just even different pieces of furniture or things around my desk. And we have these constant, like, bi-monthly decluttering sessions that can really help keep a studio organized and more tidy. And the same thing with cleaning, even just cleaning small things every day so that the dust and the clutter doesn't build up is going to make a huge difference in your small space. And once the clutter is gone, something unexpected happens, the energy shifts, and that brings me to lesson number 3, and that is that your space affects your mood way more than you think. I used to underestimate the power of environment, but in a studio, the studio is your mood. So again, reiterating points 1 and 2, having it organized, having it tidy, having it decluttered is really going to affect just your mood overall. I personally have realized that when we have a lot more earthy tones and just like a very zen vibe going on in our studio, that it really helps me feel more grounded, more at peace. The same thing for my fiance. He feels more grounded, more at peace. And I urge you to really focus on making your small space, whatever amount of space that may be. We live in a 684 square foot studio with high ceilings, that I will say the high ceilings help a lot, but also just know that the way that you have things in your studio, the way that that environment feels, the energy that it carries is really going to affect your mood. I even had a friend of mine one time visit our studio, and he literally told us, he's like, oh my God, I walked in here and I already feel at peace. And that is exactly what we try to go for. Personally, for us, we really want our home, our studio to feel really grounded and just very peaceful and like harmonious. A messy studio really equals a messy head. And once you start letting go of things that don't serve you, then we really go into point number 4, and that is that you start becoming more of a minimalist, even if you weren't before. Listen, I am by no means the poster child of being a good minimalist. I actually come from parents that are a lot better at being minimalistic and just very environmentally friendly, and they've always tried to instill these values into me. But living in a small space really does force you to ask yourself, do I really need this? do I even want this? Is there something that I can get rid of if I'm bringing this into my space? So just naturally, you're just gonna become more of a minimalist because you have more limited space. And I think that that can actually be a very positive thing, especially if it's something that you naturally struggle with. Like I know I personally did. This has forced me to change a lot of my habits. Again, I am by no means perfect, nor am I some, expert minimalist, but I will say that I have gotten a lot better at not purchasing random clothes, and I had so much skincare at one point. I've decluttered and gifted so much of that away, and overall I just try to really keep things that add value to my life, to my fiance's life, and just make sure that overall these principles help us keep our space, our little space, in order, and again, just feeling very harmonious, and just without even noticing, you become a little bit more naturally minimalistic. You stop wanting more stuff. Really, you just want less chaos. And as you start being surrounded by things that you absolutely love, something cool starts to happen, and that is that you start to develop your aesthetic, which leads me to point number 5. You learn your true style. For us, when we first moved into our studio 5 years ago, we were actually living in a different studio, but the same exact floor plan, same everything. And after 4 years of living into that one, we had to move to another studio that is literally the exact same square footage, same layout, same everything, just because our landlord was selling her other unit. But also, even having that move really helped us to kind of redefine what our style was in our apartment. When I first moved into my fiance's studio, he had obviously furnished it. It was a lot more, I would say, male, vibe, more brighter colors, different textures and patterns, and it was really cool. He did a fantastic job. And obviously, as I started to live there and started to incorporate some of my personal things, personal touches, and then as we solidified our partnership together and now we moved into the new studio, we totally redid the vibe of our studio. Like I mentioned before, it was full of colors, textures, patterns, different pops of things, and now we went for a much more earthy, very like green tones, beige, a lot of plants. My fiance loves plants, so we have this studio filled with plants, which I actually love. It's like our little Zen garden. But we really started to transition our style and just our vibe overall. You really start to notice how every single piece, because you are so intentional, can completely shift the energy and the style and just the overall aesthetic of your space. That said, creating your space is only part of the puzzle. The real magic happens when you start to incorporate multiple rooms into one, and that leads me to lesson number 6, which is zoning is essential both visually and mentally. When you live in a studio, your one room is everything. It's your place to eat, your place to sleep, your place to regenerate, your place to work. It all becomes one big environment where you have to really be intentional and pick pieces to differentiate the different spaces. And I feel like a big part of that, at least for us, we started just with, our bedroom, and then our living room and our kitchen, and then my fiance had his desk, and then it moved into I need a desk at home now. So now we have 2 working areas, and whatever is more important for you, you're gonna have to ask yourself what you need to prioritize in your space, how divided up you want things to be. We personally love the open floor plan, so even though we have these visual mental dividers with pieces of furniture, we don't have any walls, we don't have any dividers like the ones I'm using back here behind me. I do use this, I just pull it in and out in order to be able to film, so you can't see the kitchen behind me. You're gonna really have to ask yourself what's priority. If you host a lot of people, maybe having a dining room table is more important to you than having a big living room space, or vice versa. If you're someone that loves movies and you don't have people over a lot, maybe you're gonna prioritize having a big living space. So it's totally personally up to you, but it's gonna be absolutely essential to create these visual and mental zoning areas so that even your one room studio can feel like you have everything you would have in a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, and it is totally possible. We love our studio. Every single year we have enjoyed living here, so this is your sign that you don't always need a huge space to be able to have different rooms divided. It is totally possible. And lesson number 7 is living in a studio with someone else is the ultimate relationship test. There's no doors, no hiding, no anywhere where you can go besides go for a walk if you need to. But this is also your sign that you can totally live with someone, with a significant other in a studio. Like I've said throughout this video, my fiance and I have lived in a studio together for 5 years, and I will be completely honest with you, we have loved every single second of it. It has taught us so much about each other. We have nowhere else to go. We, are really good communicators. We've really learned each other's habits, what ticks the other person off, and just overall try to really become partners and make this living situation as pleasant and as peaceful for both of us as we can. We love spending time together. It's funny because we're actually both only children, and we used to love being alone. Like, I know I used to love being alone and like taking time for myself, and I probably would have been like, there's no way I can live in a studio with my partner, but it has been amazing. We love it. We have enjoyed really every single aspect of it. It has taught us so much. I am totally aware that that may not be the case for everybody. It probably really can make or break your relationship. Luckily for us, it has made our relationship, but this is your sign to not be scared if you are having to move in with someone into a studio with your partner, with your significant other. It is totally possible. You can have a great time. I actually personally would highly recommend it. Lesson number 8 is it teaches you what you actually need to be happy. I used to think that I needed more things, more square footage, everything, and it turns out that I just needed more peace. I now really have realized that prioritizing being intentional is a lot more valuable than strictly having more space or more material objects. Again, I am by no means perfect. I love, certain things, and I'm not the example of being a minimalist or anything like that, but I also want to make this video for that exact reason, because if you're someone out there that maybe doesn't identify with that necessarily, I don't want you to be scared to move into a studio, because you totally can make it work and you really start to evolve as a person by living in a small space. I cannot reiterate enough how much it actually teaches you, including what you really need to be happy, because you have such limited space. You really are intentional with what you bring into that space. And that is super valuable because you can take that lesson with you as your space starts to increase as well. Obviously, I don't know how much longer we're going to be living in a studio. It could be a year, it could be 2 or 3, or it could, we could move into a bigger space in the next year. I have no idea what life has in store for us. But either way, whatever the space ends up being, all of these principles we're still going to take with us. And over time, all of these lessons really stack up to each other, and something shifts. You stop thinking of it like a small space and you really start thinking of it like a home. And that brings me to lesson number 9, which is eventually it feels like home no matter how small. When we first moved into the studio, we definitely probably pictured it as being like a temporary situation. And here we are 5 years later, and every single year where we've considered moving into a bigger space, which I also have a separate video if you want to check out as to how I save money, and I go over a little bit more of why we've decided to keep living in a studio for this many years. But really, this studio has become such a home for us. It is where we started our journey together. Personally, for us, it's where we fell in love, where we built, our relationship and just our dynamic overall. We have so many beautiful memories here. We have so many highs and lows, just like you probably have so many highs and lows in different places or areas that you've lived. And it really makes me view this space as not limited, but really lived in, and really like a place that has evolved with us and actually made us evolve as people a lot more than maybe another space would have. And that is absolutely an invaluable lesson overall. And also just a reminder to you that no matter how small a space is, you can 100% make it feel like your home. So if you're living small or thinking about it, I hope these lessons help you embrace it fully. And I'd love to know what your space has taught you. Drop it in the comments below. And as always, if you got any value from this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I am so grateful to have you here, and I hope to catch you in my next one.